Hello, everyone, and welcome to this live stream. Super happy to be here. We're going to be talking about a very stressful or impactful topic, at least in these last few days. We're going to be talking about what just happened with Binance. So, in short, Binance's founder pleads guilty to violating money laundering rules. They'll be paying a fine. We've seen the news, we've seen X. Everyone has their feed full of this. But now we're going to talk a little bit about what's going to be happening in the future and how SwissBorg is going to be reacting to this. Obviously, as an exchange aggregator, we do have our stake in it. Cyrus, I'll let you give a little bit of a recap or oversight. What do you want to break this intro with?
Yeah, I think so. It's thank you very much, everyone, and thank you, Borgers, for making it, and thank Benji for organizing this, the whole marketing team. This is always very important in these times to be able to share opinions, share the vibe, and before maybe sharing the story, just hello to lovely Borgers here, Dinesh, Infinity, Manjo, Steve, Jeremy, Nico Coconuts. Nicola B, Luca, Jeremy Damas, Jules, Nassim, Jules again, Alexandre, Joe May, Manu, Nicola B, Kiara Borger. There's so many other people here. Really, really excited to have all you guys. Crypto CG. I'm not wearing a t-shirt, but there's probably some of your t-shirts here in my place. Yeah, I mean, I think so. It's how did we get here, and I think so. That's the big question, and then how do we move forward? I think so. Those are the two big things that we will have to discuss tonight, and of course answer any of your questions that you really have. When we started with Anthony 6 7 years ago in crypto, it was really a wild west, I would say. From back then there was no Binance, so you had those people that had like the fiat gateways, which back then was Coinbase, Kraken to some extent, Bitstamp, and that's pretty much it. Am I wrong, Anthony? Am I missing anyone else back then?
And then you have a few other guy. Hey, community members, happy to be here with you. I remember buying my first Ethereum with this company in Netherlands that was called Litecoin, UE, I think. So yeah, you have different other stuff, but essentially, yeah, it was difficult to get any fiat gateway.
And essentially, then after you had all these offshore crazy ones, right? So you had Polynex was a very big one back then, and there was a lot of different other crypto exchanges that were doing mainly just crypto to crypto. And as this was 2016, 2017, back then, well, it was not that big, and the just crypto to crypto thing, a lot of people just no one talked about KYC back then, and even less about AML and monitoring, constant monitoring, and there was no regulation for this. And then suddenly, they became all these ICOs and this big hope. And Binance was one of the crazy one, right? Because it was this one of the rare ICO that said, okay, invest into my token and right after trade on my exchange, because they already built their technology, right? From BTC China and other different things. CZ had already a long career as an engineer, product, and CEO in terms of building blockchain and exchanges, at least centralized exchanges. And I think that from that, there was the rapid growth, the crazy growth of Binance that started right away. And with rapid growth, you usually have to be able to do two things, right? When rapid growth is be able to scale the technology and able to onboard and create a great experience. And I think so. This is really what the first phase was done of Binance, and things are going very well. I think the 2017, like making that mistake of not doing KYC and all that, was maybe a little bit crazy, but it was maybe back then maybe doable to some extent. Just to remind you guys, ourselves at SwissBorg, we did our ICO in that time, and we did actually KYC every user that deposited more than a threshold back then, which was 5,000 francs, because you were able to do under 5,000 francs. You didn't need to essentially do KYC back then. And now it's 1,000 francs, I think so. And we were verifying, we were doing though AML on every essentially wallet to make sure that any wallets were tinted. And we still registered all these different users, and there was no rule. So we were always taking a bit the other approach, saying, okay, you need to create a great experience, you need to scale the technology and and be able to onboard the biggest amount of community members, but you still need to do something that will enable you to make a clean type of business going forward. And I think so. The big issue of Binance is that in 2018 they didn't really change that much, and they started just changing when things got too late, right? They literally played that the card saying, okay, now that I'm the biggest player in the world and one of the most great ecosystem that exists, and which is still the case, just to make things clear. But they start realizing that anti-money laundering is a real huge case. And I think so, unfortunately, this is not where they played their cards in a very smart way. And obviously, the U.S. government was the first one to seeing what was happening with Binance and how they're going to be able to turn down Binance and eventually kill it. I think so. This was what we witnessed in a span of this last year or so, especially more when FTX fell and crashed. I think a lot of people said, okay, how did that crash? Well, let's try to find a guilty person for FTX, but then let's make sure that on geopolitical reason, let's try to make sure that CZ pays for what he's done to some extent, and make sure that the US is a stronger player in the crypto scene. So you really have two things, I think, so that unfold the situation as, for sure, some bad practices in terms of compliance, regulatory, and in terms of AML and KYC in general. But there was as well as essentially a little bit of like a geopolitical coup of saying like, okay, we have our big exchange in the US, which is Coinbase and potentially Kraken. Binance is way too big. How can we, make sure that Binance is not going to be controlling this crypto market? And how, because if you think about crypto market, the crypto market could eventually overtake NASDAQ, right? Or it could overtake anything. Like even people laugh about this today, but if I said to you 20 years ago that NASDAQ would overtake the Dow Jones, everyone would be like, oh. But now it's quite the truth. So I think so. There's a double edge to the sword, which is unfortunately bad practice, but at the same time, let's make sure that crypto is a huge American play, and unfortunately, Binance is definitely not that. It's on the opposite, it's the other side of the world, and what we're witnessing here today is a bit of mix. Maybe a last comment on what we've seen as well a bit. Maybe, I don't know. What's your thought on that, Anthony? Maybe I could ask you what you think.
No, definitely. I mean, there is a lot of things that could be said. If I go back in time, like you say, what we witness in every timeline is there is new era of that are dominated by exchange, right? MTGOX. When we started, it was Poloniex. Bitrex was big.
Bitrex.
It's closing this door this week as well. No one talk about it, but it was a massive player back then. And of course, Binance dominated the space, create like no one else before. Maybe MTGOX was in the same position, but it was a different crowd. It was a very different game. And I think, all respect to CZ, it really helped a lot of people to get into crypto. It was massive.
Yeah.
The flip coin of that is as well, they came to a point where it was so monopolistic that even getting listed become blurry. To be honest, I didn't understand the strategy with all these tokens. Yeah. Yeah.
No, I'm just saying better than 6. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay.
I can't do. I'm dyslexic. There you go.
So giving exposure to millions of people, not designing what was the fair rules of the game. So I think what they back initially, Sandbox, Matic, that was great project. Recently, I didn't understand what was their strategy. I think with Binance Smart Chain as well, they lacked of, if you look at Solana, for example, they have strong personality, strong ecosystem. You have Tolly is a great leader. He never really tried to lead the BSC, and to be honest, it's very garbage what is on the BSC.
And very centralized, to be honest.
It's very centralized. So again, there's a lot of positive outcome from having Binance in the space. Now it's changing, and I think it's going to be a new era. I don't think Binance will ever be in the future what it used to be. We've seen that with BitMEX, for example, is a very good example, was the leader.
100%.
And then they put, I don't think the current CEO is going to be in place forever. I think they're going to change him. And yeah, things will I think will change. Of course, Binance is a giant machine. We never had someone in such a position. And yeah, so cards are going to be redistributed. I think definitely the biggest winner in the space are the actors that are left, like us, but as well the decentralized exchange, to some extent, for sure. It will bring as well a new wave of. I think the way I see it is now we are going to evolve in the space where we have the ETF for the Bitcoin. So when the ETF is purchasing Bitcoin, of course, it's a massive centralization of the Bitcoin. And now we add another layer because we have only regulated actors that have to share all the data. And notably Coinbase in the US, they clearly put Coinbase in a very, very dominant position into the US. So the result of that is Bitcoin is going to be heavily centralized, that we want it or not. And I think what does it say to us is we are going to see more and more people that are going to try to reinvent Bitcoin. I think one of the examples in the moment is KAS, Kaspa. I'm not specifically a fan or an expert, but definitely I do see things coming back like this. And if we have more and more coin competing with Bitcoin, then we are going to see new exchange very similar to Poloniex coming back. Already seeing it. So the fact that Binance is disappearing from the landscape, and not completely, but it's changing its position, is going to bring a lot of opportunities. And we have to think and process all these opportunities. There is a lot to impact, actually. But it's exciting time. And again, all the respect to Binance and what CZ has done. I think it helped us a lot, everyone in the space. But now it's time for a new era. And yeah, very proud of what we're doing with that regard.
I don't know what you think, Anthony and Benji. I'm not too much a completo. How do you say people? Théorie de complot? Completist. I'm not too much a completist, but this one is too big, to be honest, because you see what have happened, right? So essentially, Sam is playing cards with essentially Binance and CZ. Binance CZ says, "Okay, you want to play with me? I'm gonna tear you down." It tears down essentially FTX. And then after, well, we know that everyone's trying to punch Binance, and removing their fiat gateways is the first thing. Then now the SEC tackles them just before getting approved ETF, which is very, very weird coincidence, and right after SBS trial as well. So really showing that essentially BlackRock, which is favoring Coinbase, will be able to really be the main actor within the market. And it does feel a bit strange that all of this is happening at the same time. Some people say, "Oh, it's normal." I don't think so. I think this is really geopolitics, especially the tension between the US and the China right now is even bigger. And we definitely know that to some extent, if Binance or not was related to China, people still see essentially Binance potentially as something close to China. And just getting back to Harry, who said the best thing, Binance, as Janet Yellen Binance was saying yesterday. I mean, definitely she didn't understand much about crypto, which is fine. She does probably a lot of other things that are more important for her today. But yesterday, I mean, it was really weird how they were talking about how Binance was against the security of the U.S. and how it was funding the Hamas and all of that, and that's why they protected the U.S. And it really felt like this was really BS to be honest. I just see it as a real political play, saying, okay, let's be able to surf again the biggest digital market of all time, which is crypto. Make sure that this industry essentially rises within the states, within essentially their control, which is BlackRock, SEC, and essentially Nasdaq, right? And of course, the US dollar that take care of the whole thing. So it was a bit weird, and I think so. Yeah, I don't know if everyone had the same intention, which is really to protect American users, or more to protect American interests at the end. But from, as you just said, Anthony, these house of cards of crypto, especially the fast movers, the one who get the most attention, have really been able to essentially rather go quite slow or rapidly and blow up. We haven't seen any credible player that went extremely fast and that didn't blow up. Because if you look at Coinbase from 2014 to 2021, they just had like exchange, which was like maybe 5 different or 8 different coins, right? Then when they started to bring earn, then they got removed. They really have been adding bricks to essentially their collection in a very slow and great way, right? And I think so SwissBorg, very different breed to Coinbase, but in some way have a lot of things that are quite similar, is that we bring these bricks in a compliant way, in a slower way, and our growth is obviously slower. It might be frustrating, but I think so we're doing the right things. And long story short is that the turtle always wins the race, and you see that with a lot of different other platforms, like OpenSea was the king of the kings. I don't see OpenSea as being the future kings, to be honest. It looked like they made a lot of mistakes recently, and they're probably going to be paying it in this next new phase. So this is what crypto is all about. It's rather you're building slowly and it goes to the next end. Like Bitcoin has been really evolving slowly. Ethereum has been evolving slowly, and all these things have been slowing very really slowly, but they do last. And I think so. I'm very proud that at SwissBorg we're really at that forefront, and that we do take time to move, but when we do move, we look how to be sustainable and not just rush into any gold and realize that this is not going to help us on the longer run.
I think one of the immediate outcome as well that we all get from having Binance in this position is, especially in this timing when the market seems to be more and more positive, is most of the good opportunity were gated by Binance, and now is going to open up, because most certainly Binance is going to stop Launchpad and all these things for a period of time, right? With this scrutiny, they are going to, they need to revamp their model. One of the direct consequences of that is now the best project, they're going to start to look out there. Who is going to be the best candidate to help them to acquire people that only use centralized exchange? So Coinbase is definitely not a candidate, because they're in the same position. They don't want to take any risk. They're in the US, heavy scrutiny. So there is less and less actor in place. So there will be Bybit. But again, Bybit is one of these unregulated actors. And us, with all the development that we've done recently, so the alpha, the better than sex with the integration with decentralized exchange, we have all the technical tools now to make it happen. What is missing is we need the world to know we are there. And that's why as well we will need your help as a community. So recently we launched this program where we say, go on Twitter. If you see a good project, if you that has a token, use the hashtag SwissBorgMex. If you see a project that you like that doesn't have a token, use the hashtag SwissBorgAlpha. This way we're going to raise the awareness. This way we are going to identify the best project. And this way, gradually, maybe in 6 months, then we are going to be identified as the place to go for serious project to actually launch their token, do their ICO or pre-seed, and actually get in contact with the best community. And that's, to me, the immediate consequence of that is very positive, especially at the beginning of the bull market, I hope.
I think there's maybe one thing that I would like to pick your minds about, and it's about the fact that you mentioned Binance was growing extremely rapidly and was taking more and more importance, almost becoming a monopoly, at least in the US. But that also means that there were a lot of people that invested in the company and that put their funds there, that trusted them. And something like what happened right now might be scary for a lot of investors, especially if they're not particularly knowledgeable. How do you think it's going to impact the confidence in centralized exchanges in the future for people?
Yeah, I mean, we're in crypto, so I think so people start to realize that it's a very shaky, entertaining business, and has a huge amount of risk, right? I think so 2022 was a massive one, 2018, and there will always be ongoing things. I don't see Binance exploding anytime soon. I see, though, this is not the end, unfortunately. I think there's going to be potentially other regulators. the US is always the meanest, I would say. So I don't think that will get worse than the US, but there's probably going to be more cases on Binance because until now, a lot of people thought that Binance was invincible, right? And that the fiat gateways, they would eventually just do DeFi things and crypto things. But it at the end, when people really has a lot of once when regulators have you on the radar, generally that's not a very good sign. And if some people start scratching and finding more and more different things that make the exchange or the company guilty, that's usually the beginning of a lot of sources of a lot of pains. I really do hope that at least CZ, I still believe that he always had good intentions. He again made this space much better than when he came from it. He's been there for now 10 years or more. I think that there are going to be a lot of new other exchanges that should be to potentially worry about what they're doing. There's a lot of still offshore type of crazy sexes and others that are doing crazy stuff. And I think people are starting to realize, well, you have to do the things the right way, and you have to be regulated in order to offer great experience. It's not just about creating great experience to the user. You have to essentially be able to offer best practices. So that's the thing that with SwissBorg we always been doing, and for us, the things on the long run, this is a good thing because it reminds me a bit about when I got into the peer-to-peer download thing, right? You started first with was Napster, then you evolved with this new technology which was peer-to-peer, and essentially it was able to download much faster, which was Emule, Donkey. But all of these things then evolved to BitTorrent, so you still have BitTorrent going, and it'll still be really unregulated business regarding the crypto activities because they still have this peer-to-peer culture. But you'll have Spotify, and Spotify will be a great one. You'll have Netflix, right? And I think so. This is what, with Anthony and myself, we always thought about is essentially how do you get to combine both of that? How do you get the best Netflix type of experience where you regulate it, all of that, and at the same time you offer this crazy type of peer-to-peer vision where really community is able to make the choices, they're able to really ride the ways with us and how we build something different. I think so that's what we always dreamt about, and today you saw the Napster falling, which was probably Mongox. You saw different other sexes that fell, like Bittrex and others, and BitMEX that fell to some extent. That were the Emule, the eDonkeys, or the LimeWires. Not the new LimeWire, by the way. New LimeWire is cool. Now you'll have more Netflixes and Spotifys that will enable to make something better, and the new versions of Spotify, Netflix, which I think so is the SwissBorg ones.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think that's a question that might be more and more important to answer clearly, and that will be getting more and more is in light of these events, what has SwissBorg done in the past, and what is SwissBorg planning to do in the future to either avoid or be protected to any case that might resemble this in any shape or form. I put the little mountain background behind the three of us, which was the first iteration of something really good SwissBorg did. I think it was after the FTX situation. But I'd like to know if you guys want to talk a little bit more about how SwissBorg is regulated and what we're doing to stay out of any of these situations, which seem to happen more or less regularly nowadays.
For sure. I'm happy to go through that. I mean, first, we just have to make things clear. It's extremely difficult to always get the right answer in terms of regulation because every market has his own perception of how you do things, how we are as positioned as a company in Switzerland, but how we are essentially we're regulated through Estonia and regulated through France. So it's always very complex, right? Because every country has its own way to do things. I think so. The most important in terms of practices, and not it's only about regulation, is always try to make sure that your risk is covered in the best way possible. And the risk is obviously there's a multiple different layers of risks, but the ones that I think that the regulators are very, 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 very cautious about is about knowing who are the users or who are the clients into essentially your ecosystem, and essentially what is their activities. Are they, politic exposed persons? Where did they come from? Where's the source of income? All these information that I know a lot of people like, oh, why should I give that to SwissBorg and all that, is because this is the best way that we could really be able to make sure that you guys are legit, right? And how your activity, you're building your wealth is super legit, because you really don't want to be able to help or crime organizations to filter within your ecosystem and to grow, right? Like everyone knows, I'm originally Iranian Swiss, right? I would have loved to onboard Iranians. Again, my dad is based in Iran, right? So cousins Iran, a lot of family in Iran. But we never even, okay, I maybe asked it in 2017, 2018 for ICO, but even then we said, Christoph and Jeremy were like, no, man, sorry, you're never going to do anything with the Iranians. It is what it is, because banks and other people will see this in a very bad way. Same as that with the American market, we always knew the American market is a very complicated market. And it's a market that will never forgive or will never forget what has been done. So we're always very clear, like, okay, we're not going to go in these markets that are complicated, because we know that if we need that, we need to have licenses, or essentially we will need to work so hard to show that we're not helping criminal activities that it's probably not worthwhile. And today, a lot of people, even in Africa, are always saying, oh, but why is SwissBorg not ready in Africa? It's such a shame and all that. And again, I think, am I happy that SwissBorg is servicing Swiss people? Of course. But do I think that Africans it's probably more important for them than for us? Yes, but it's so complicated to do so. And I think so that was a very smart move of SwissBorg, is really to go into markets where regulation was much clearer than any other places, such as Switzerland, and as well, of course, Europe, which is even bigger for us. And I think so this is how we played it. And till today, well, we always had open dialogues with regulators. It's not always the easiest task. Every regulator has, again, his own his own point of view, but we've, I think so, showed a lot of hard work. Our regulatory team, as Justine, that has past experience with the AMF. We have Victor, that's been working in the scene for a long time. We have Andrew, that's been working for a very long time. And we really have so many great people internally, but as well externally, PwC, EY, different law firms that work with us, Bonner Lawson and other ones, that have a great experience, that advise us to not only build the best experience for our users, but make sure essentially that we are compliant, and we're as well giving a good experience for the regulators, to making sure that what we're doing is kosher, essentially.
Definitely. Thank you very much. Anthony, I wanted to know if maybe you had a little bit to talk about how the market and the competitive landscape might evolve from something like this, outside of how SwissBorg is definitely building in order to be compliant 100%. What are the others out there going to be doing from here on out, and how can that maybe affect what we're seeing today in the market? You were mentioning that a lot of companies might be not 100% compliant. So how is compliance going to evolve in the space, and how is it going to impact the people that are investing in perhaps these companies that aren't all clean?
Yeah, I mean, it's always the same question. I guess I like to compare the crypto experience to what we live as human. We are babies, so you're right. So when you are a baby, you like to be home, be fed with by your parents. You appreciate to be in a safe environment, and that's the beginning of crypto. So when you're a beginner, I think regulation makes sense. You want to be in an environment where you feel safe. You don't have a lot of needs anyway. Then you evolve as a teenager or young adult. You don't appreciate as much as you used to. You used to have your mom cooking food for you. You prefer to go out with friends, having your own life, right? You want to experience. You want to expand. So you don't see. You start to lose sight with the comfort of the familial, bedrock and family house. So the only thing that you care about is going out and experience. And that's what, most of the people, when they discover crypto after 3 to 6 months, they want to play, right? So they want to get out there, try leverage, go on chain, do all these things. And it's fine. So then at this moment, regulation doesn't matter anymore. And then eventually two paths, either you get burned, you get wrecked into episode like FTX, or you get very rich as well, right? So at this moment is when yourself, you become a dad, you become a mother, you become a family member. At that period of time in your life, you like to go back on Sunday, having a dinner with or a lunch with your parents and your family because you find the comfort of home again. And I think that's when regulation matter again, right? And I guess that's a little bit this crazy time of teenager that is where maybe regulation doesn't matter, but if you have money or if you lose money because one of the exchange that you collapse or abuse your fund, then you are going to appreciate that. So I think appreciation of regulation comes from being a newbie somehow that doesn't know much, and you want to have being very comforted or having the experience, and in between it doesn't matter. So what we're trying to bridge now with SwissBorg is I think we do very well the baby age and the mature age, and with the sex with the MEX technology, we're trying to insert within a regulated environment with keeping all the what we've built and fighting for. We're trying to inject more of the fun as well of what happened during your teenager age, because it's good. There is, of course, you live a very crazy life, but it's still good. Sometimes even when you're 40 years old, you like to go out with your friends and have fun. So essentially, I think regulation is it's important. It gives you a criteria, but that's not what matters the most. What matters the most is how can you create an environment that combines everything? Because what happened out there without the regulation framework is not necessarily bad. There is true innovation. There is entrepreneurs that are actually trying to build things that are great. Of course, there is all the rug pull and it's difficult to navigate. But there is a lot of good projects actually that are going to be there. They are building at the moment and are going to be changing the landscape of crypto in the future. And now that's the challenge: how to integrate that within a regulated space. Because right now you have this dichotomy, right? Is either you sell a little bit of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and few other coins, or you completely degen and then you're not regulated. And at SwissBorg, we believe we can merge the two, and that's why we started with the MEX, and there is much more to come.
Yeah, I mean, I would add to that. There's definitely the business of market making, which is something I think so people are going to tackle a lot in the next upcoming semesters, because there's been really market manipulations from multiple different ones, and we see right now that in the U.S. no one does market making anymore, or a very small amount of people. So that's definitely going to be something that's going to be challenged a lot. But the most important for me is in order to really grow this sphere and be compliant while keeping, I would say, your an anonymous identity, which I think so is very important, is essentially how are we going to be plugged into zero knowledge type of wallets. And I think so this for me is most probably not the next big theme, I would say, of this cycle, this current news cycle. It's still probably something that will come with it, and building the next cycle will be very important, because if now you're really into Web3 and everything is audited by essentially Big Brother watching you, this is not going to be a really good thing. It's not going to be necessarily. I mean, you probably want to show something. You probably don't want to reveal everything. It depends as well at each person. So I really hope that zero knowledge will be, really something that will be plugged. Obviously, myself, I have strong interest in Galactica, this layer 1, which is really the 4 months of bringing a blockchain that will be able to have this zero knowledge proof and be able to do the ZK KYC, so zero knowledge KYC. So you do KYC, but then you essentially get to have a wallet and you don't have your name, but you have this wallet, then you could go farm and do whatever you want based on your identity. But that doesn't mean that the platform that has all your name and where you live and where you're based and all your preferences, but essentially be able to still navigate this in a compliant way. So this, I think, so for me, again, is a very nice hybrid model, because then you don't want to give everything to everyone. I think so that would be, if we go through there, it might be a little bit tricky going forward. Definitely, I would not like to see that. And I think a lot of people in the crypto business in the beginning was to do exactly the opposite, which was as well a bit utopist. I don't think about a world where everything could be anonymous and just live into DeFi and have a degen world where no one is able to know what's happening. That doesn't seem like something scalable for everyone. So I think so. Yeah, I hope that will be the next big theme, and I'll be looking forward to do cool stuff with that and bring the next million people, on it.
Exactly. And before we close this, there is actually a few people that are talking about how we will be onboarding the next million people. I don't know if you want to talk about that a little bit, or if we just say that it's going to be a mix of organic and hard work on our behalf. But
yeah, I think so. I mean, if you guys remember from last cycle, we brought half a million people, right? And that was without big training and without a bigger budget and all that, and without you guys, right? So, I mean, obviously, many of you guys were already there, but I think that this next cycle is going to be much bigger than any other cycle, because it's always a bit that. So it's not, history doesn't repeat, but it rhymes. And you're seeing a lot of people, a lot of big guns that are just waiting. All these financial advisors, every random person that wants to put 5-10% or 1 to 10% of their portfolio into crypto, that is going to make a huge rally. So with that being said, I think so there's going to be more and more people that will be onboarded to SwissBorg, because there's going to be some competition to some extent, but it's not like there's so many competitors either, right? It's going to be harder and harder, especially to provide such a great user experience that SwissBorg is doing, and more importantly, to join a platform that is owned by their community and has a really beautiful green laser eyes and green hearts. So I think so that's really our big thing. So I hope that right now we're really working hard on the operation side, so how to onboard the next million people, and more, hopefully, and to target the right countries. And Mika will as well hopefully help us. That's happening in June next year. That will enable us to then hopefully passport our licenses in different countries, and to do so that to do not only indirect marketing, but to do direct marketing into many countries in the world, or at least in Europe, for us. I think so that's how we will bring the next million people. And with that, I just want to wish you guys all my love, and I have to bounce. So take care, guys.